accelerating the paradigm shift through innovation. When we talk about sustainability, when we talk about the broader Islamic finance industry, one of the key challenges that has always existed is a lack of tools to be able to implement what many of us understand to be the true essence of how we envision Islamic finance operating. A lack of technology, lack of transparency that has previously hindered many of the aspirations that many Islamic financial professionals have wanted to have within the industry. But today that is changing. With innovation driving so many different aspects of the financial services industry, what opportunity does it present to Islamic finance when it comes to embracing sustainability and practically implementing it in the activities of the Islamic financial institutions? It's a very, very interesting session, and we are delighted to have some of the most prestigious scholars who will be participating and sharing their thoughts and insights during the session. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome the speakers of the session, starting with Sheikh Nizam Yaquby, who is a member of the Global Shariah Supervisory Committee at Standard Chartered Bank, Dr. Mufti Irshad Ahmad Aijaz, who is a Sharia board member for Standard Chartered Bank, Pakistan, Dr. Ashraf Hashim, who is a Sharia board member of Standard Chartered Bank in Malaysia, Dr. Amin Fateh, who is a Sharia board member of Standard Chartered Bank, UAE, and Mufti Yusuf Sultan, who is a Sharia board member of Standard Chartered Bank, Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our esteemed speakers to the stage. And I'm also delighted to invite the moderator for the session, Dr. Ala Al-Abid, the Associate Director, Group Islamic Products at Standard Chartered Bank. Dr. Ala, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Brother Mustafa. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Assalamu alaikum, and a very well welcome to all our audience, respected audience, across the different time zones from the 50 countries or so that Khurram mentioned this morning. It gives me a great pleasure, and it's indeed an honor to be moderating this session and a privilege to be joined by our esteemed panelists. Opportunities have been identified at every important juncture in modern finance for a paradigm shift in Islamic finance, whether in the aftermath of the global financial crisis, the popularization of the fintech revolution, or more recently, with the going mainstream of sustainable finance. So in Dr. Al-Ghari's words, this is indeed a God-given opportunity for Islamic finance. In this session, we explore sustainability-linked innovations that can accelerate the paradigm shift from present-day Islamic finance to the maqasid achieving Islamic finance, as well as the drivers of such innovation. Innovation is often the result of push by regulators. It could be market demand, and of course, stakeholders' activism. But as was concluded in the last session, it is indeed a collective responsibility. And as Rola mentioned in her keynote, global challenges indeed calls for global solutions and collective effort. So without further ado, I'd like to turn to Sheikh Nizam. Sheikh Nizam, accelerating the paradigm shift to the ideal maqasid achieving Islamic finance requires arguably innovation and a full product suite of Islamic sustainable finance. What is your assessment of the global Islamic product sustainable suite today?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As you know, the conventional banks, they have only one contract, and that is loan with interest. While for us in the Islamic finance, we have limitless types of contracts that we can use. And there are many of them mentioned in standards and other books. However, in my view, my humble view, that the retail banks are a very limited scope for innovation in contracts. because of the heavy regulatory requirements on the retail banks. And that is correctly so, because they utilize the general funds of the general public, and the responsibilities on them are very heavy to preserve the wealth of the general public, and the regulators are very careful in allowing very innovative or risky types of contracts. So the real area for innovation for Islamic banks is in the scope of Islamic investment banks. And in these areas, I think the movement for innovation is very high, and we can utilize different types of contracts. But in the current environmental of regulatory and as you know, the international regulatories and Basel 1 and 2 and 3, and I don't know now there is 4 and 5, and I don't know how many Basels we are going to go through. So all these things are making the innovation in this area very limited. So this is my humble view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Nizam, for sharing your perspective and the challenges that you perceive to be emanating from the regulatory compliance in this space. So in your opinion, Sheikh Nizam, what is the roadmap then? So how can we, what should the agenda be for Islamic banks? How can they transition to a maqasid achieving Islamic finance, given the regulation framework that exists and prevail today?
I look at the Islamic finance and banks, what they do in a positive way. Unlike many criticism that is directed to them, that they are not within the maqasid al-Shari'ah. And you know, the word maqasid al-Shari'ah is very elastic, and people use it for different intentions. So we have to be very careful. And usually, many people who are not very well versed in Islamic law and in the tradition of fiqh, they always use the word maqasid as a screen to shield their ignorance in fiqh al-mu'amalat. So this is to be very frank and to be very clear. So now, for example, if a bank is financing a home for somebody, is this against maqasid al-Shari'ah? To finance houses? To make people who don't own homes owning houses? Is this against maqasid al-Shari'ah? If somebody needs a car to go to work or to go to university or to take his family out or whatever, and Islamic banks are financing this, is this against maqasid al-Shari'ah? Some of our brothers who are writing that no, the Islamic bank, they are not fulfilling maqasid al-Shari'ah. What maqasid al-Shari'ah you mean? Let us know. When we talk to them, they are talking about macro things which none of these retail banks have mentioned in their books or in their articles of association, that they are going to alleviate poverty or redistribute wealth among the people. Who said such things? Yes, we try to aspire to contribute in these efforts, but these macro and important issues is not the duty of retail banks. They have a small duty in this which I hope that they will try to do. But to take things out of context and put on the burden of these retail banks on top of all these regulatory requirements and Basel requirements and all these things, and also they are required to comply with the standards now, whether it is Sharia or whether it is accounting and auditing or whether it is governance. upon all these things to put on top of them that you have to fulfill. As I mentioned, it is a very good cause. We like it. We like to contribute in it. But in practical terms, this is my view, and it has been my view for many, many years, and I have been public with this issue.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Nizam, for sharing with us your view on the practicality of the sustainability agenda. If I may move to Pakistan and to you, Mufti Irshad, what is your assessment of the sustainability practices and Islamic product offerings in Pakistan?
Thank you, Dr. Ala. In Pakistan, if you look at the conversion procedure, so I first try to emphasize on the conversion procedure because we think that conversion from conventional system into Islamic is also a step towards sustainability. In 2022, the Federal Sharia Court has given a time of 5 years. So then the government of Pakistan has constituted a very high-level steering committee, which is headed by Minister of Finance and Central Bank Governor and Chairman of Securities and Exchange Commission. And later on, this committee has formed 6 subcommittees, and every committee has stream and sub-stream. Almost around 30 or 35 committees and groups are there, they are working. And when I was traveling into Dubai, there were around 120 meetings or so for discussion of changing system, legal requirement, and many other things. So this is the first thing. The second thing, in conversion, there are two steps which are possible in conversion. So all 2 steps are now in consideration. The first is capital market step for capital market conversion, and the second, banking sector conversion. Another sector which is part of both system, but basically fall in the ambit of Ministry of Finance, that is a public debt. So now the governmental efforts and the central bank and Securities and Exchange Commission, they are trying to develop policies, and especially with the focus on legal reform, tax neutrality, and conversion of government-owned entities. These are 3 main focuses. So by the end of 2027, probably we will be able to convert most of the economic system, most of the country system. Now we are facing some problems in while conversion of this thing. And as Sheikh Nizam has rightly said, there are people who are focusing on some areas of research which is not so much relevant. For example, they generally try to evaluate performance of Islamic and conventional bank, performance of Sharia boards, performance of board of director. But now we are heading towards the problem that if the system is converted, what will be the procedure for monetary policy replacement? If we, according to the judgment, if interest rate should be discarded and could not continue after 2027, this is the question. And if you look at the universities and their researches, so their focus on this type of question, the monetary policy and also fiscal, and what is the governance model, and how can be the whole public debt, huge public debt, in every country, and less of assets, and especially the legal reforms, because in Pakistan we have a very different structure. Like some other countries, we have federation, we have provinces. So how the legal reform will work. So these type of efforts are now underway, and I think ultimately they will give the committees and the working group they are working, they will give some good insight. And so far as the sustainability is concerned, so now the focus of countries like Pakistan is now on nano credits, micro credits, and microfinance scheme, poverty alleviation, because these are very important issues, these countries. Also green financing and the projects which are more useful and sustainable. And especially nowadays in another area which are under discussion or for legal reform and for regulatory reform is the corporate farming. Corporate farming, Pakistan is agriculture country, so the corporate farming, which is beneficial for how it become beneficial for not only for corporate, but for general public, for people, especially less privileged class, and the creation of the employment. So I think all these things are basically, we are heading towards the sustainability and sustainable development. And last but the important point, generally when we discuss, as Mashaykh have mentioned in their different sessions, when we discuss about the sustainability, we generally do not include conversion or Islamic finance, elimination of interest among the sustainable goals. We think that poverty alleviation, gender equality and other things are sustainable. But I think, and for an Islamic country, one of the core and one of the basic sustainability requirements, sustainability of an Islamic country with the Islamic values, is to eliminate anything that is repugnant to Sharia from their economic system, from their taxation, from their monetary policy, and each and everything. So these are some developments with regards to conversion and with regard to sustainable products in Pakistan.
Thank you very much for sharing your views, Mufti Irshad. It is indeed pertinent to say that debt-based financing is indeed unsustainable or intrinsically unsustainable and has led to recurrence of global financial crises at the conventional financial system. And that is indeed a key criteria that is often overlooked when we talk about sustainability. But you have touched upon the conversion and the decision or the judgment by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, which is indeed being, I believe, followed by many in the Islamic banking industry. So if I may just go back to that same judgment, in your opinion, does this judgment by the court, does it represent an opportunity or a challenge to further accelerate the sustainability agenda in Pakistan?
See, this judgment we consider is an opportunity because those who are aware of Pakistani landscape of financial system, all the banks are now trying to convert. They are now putting their efforts on this. And obviously, these type of big decisions have some challenges also. Conversion, how to convert the whole economy, what about the foreign debts, what about the long-term interest-based debts. So I think the opportunity part is greater than the challenge part. And this will, while we convert or while we try to convert the system, some practical issues appears. So this is another opportunity for learning, for creation, for setting standards for others to follow. So all of them, and not only the scholars, because I'm a scholar, so obviously I'm inclined to this decision, but all those who are not Sharia scholar, but they are aware of the frame, overall landscape, they say that the opportunity in this decision is greater than the challenges. Obviously, challenges must be there in these type of decisions.
Thank you very much, Mufti Irshad. I'm sure we're all looking forward to the success of the conversion of the Islamic or the financial system in Pakistan with much hope and excitement. If I may move to the UAE and to you, Dr. Amin. The UAE is hosting COP28 and has declared 2023 as the year of sustainability. Can you highlight some of the key initiatives and frameworks driving sustainability innovation in the country against this backdrop? Thank you.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As you may know, you already mentioned about this year that is named the year of sustainability and year of 2023. We have seen also the government assign a ministry of climate change and environment. We have seen also the initiative of UAE to be maybe in the first drivers of changing the word to zero net. We can see also that there was an issuance of a framework from the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. That framework was for sustainability and sustainable, what they called it, financial or finance framework. They highlighted in that framework the recommendations that they are looking for, the initiatives for having a sustainable finance products, initiatives in the UAE market. I myself believe that such initiative of our forum today and other initiatives in UAE that are taking place, alhamdulillah, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a blessing that we already have the environment of sustainable finance is being prepared and being initiated here in UAE. And all what we need is, as our Sheikh mentioned earlier, that all what we need is to have a disciplined, sustainable products. That it's not only being sustainable, because I myself believe that being or following Sharia, the sustainable matter will be what will be a fruit for that. There is, it will come as part of our Sharia discipline that we are following Sharia in our judgment and in our resolutions, and the sustainable matter will be a result, a fruit of that. But that doesn't mean that we don't speak the language that other people are willing to hear. That doesn't mean that we push that away from us. No, we are willing to speak that language. We are willing to prove that Islamic finance and Islamic banking will serve the purpose that they are looking for. This is something that is part of our religion, and we care about the environment, the social life, in our, of course, values, according to our Sharia values. We care about that, and definitely, alhamdulillah, this is something that we are praised with, that our government here in UAE and the state is taking care of this matter and facilitating the infrastructure for Islamic banks and, of course, for all financial banks. But we are here to support the Islamic, of course, cause and voice, build the infrastructure for that. So all what we need is to consider and to stick to our values, and of course to speak the language that we are talking about, the sustainable matter, where things will be, inshallah, in the way that we are expecting and we are willing to have.
Thank you, Dr. Amin. I'm sure, as you have rightly elaborated, the financial industry in the UAE continues to be supported and facilitated and guided by the initiatives of the government through its various ministries. You also mentioned the UAE Sustainable Finance Framework, which is issued by the ministry in 2021. One of the recommendations of this UAE framework for sustainable finance was improving both the supply and demand for sustainable finance products. So as I understand, you also sit on the board of some Takaful companies. So from your perspective, from your experience in the markets under your purview, has the innovation and the drive in the Islamic sustainable space, has it been driven by both supply and demand, or is demand lagging in incorporating and asking for Islamic sustainable solutions?
Well, to be honest with you, this is my opinion, that I still see that there is a lack of the sustainable demand that we don't see, because I would say that we are still at the early stage of this awareness matter and bringing this to, that UAE is hosting the summit of COP28, as you mentioned and referred to. So we are still at the early stage of bringing the awareness of sustainable finance to the market. However, we have seen issuance of green sukuk was issued and was approved by our scholars, which takes us to that direction that we are willing to see. And I have also come through what is called an information that by 2050, we are willing to reach or achieve the net zero with an estimated of $165 billion or trillion dollar for such achievement. So we have a long way to take. However, I would say by having such forums and such discussion, bring the awareness of that to our banks, and as you seen the results, the board of directors and the regulators are playing the main role on that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amin. It is indeed a long way, I'm sure. And then in that long way, there are challenges, undoubtedly. So one of the main challenges to Islamic sustainable finance is finding green assets, for instance, especially in our developing and emerging hydrocarbon-based, mostly, economies. So I'll turn to you, Mufti Yusuf. So with this in mind, could you please help shed some light on other challenges that are currently preventing the innovations in the Islamic sustainable finance space, challenges that are currently preventing the full scale-up of whatever innovations do exist today at the global, across the global countries or globally?
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa salatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin Sayyid al-Mursaleen wa ala alihi ajma'in. It is indeed a great pleasure and a great opportunity and a privilege to sit among the scholars, the practitioners, the leaders of the Islamic finance industry in this hall room today. And I hope we can make most out of it, inshallah, bi'iznillahi ta'ala. So the question that has been posed to me, the challenges when we talk about sustainable finance. I think the challenges as outlined by various reports today. First of all, as the mashayikh have already mentioned, we are still in the very initial phase when it comes to implementation of this sustainability agenda. The governance, reporting, transparency, even measurement in many countries, many jurisdictions are still being shaped. We have some measurement tools here and there, but when it comes to make it an effective one, standardized one, considering this part of the regulatory process, so this is something long way to go. And awareness is something which drives the demand, as Sheikh has mentioned, Sheikh Dr. Amin Fatah. The demand, what we see from the customer side, also needs to be driven for something, and that is a function of awareness. Which again goes back to the universities, the capacity building programs, the awareness programs carried out not only by the regulators, but also the stakeholders like financial institutions, as has been done today by Standard Chartered, and we really appreciate it. Now, I would like to also emphasize on which other mashayikh have also mentioned, but just to echo on that. When we talk about this sustainability agenda, the summary of the agendas, the 17 goals, is basically taking care of the people, planet, and profit. But if we look from the lens of Sharia, one very important piece is missing here, which is basically faith. And that's what I think we are trying to converge with the sustainability agenda. And faith is what? Iman is what drives sincerity. Right? Today we are talking about greenwashing, this and that, and the Sheikh Dr. Nizam has also mentioned in a previous session, it shouldn't be mere advertising campaigns. So there has to be substance in implementing that agenda. And that comes from sincerity. That comes from the belief, the faith that we have to be answerable for every action that we do in this world. So that's the belief of Akhirah. And also when it comes to the agenda of profit, profit in Sharia is not only making profit in this world, but also in the Akhirah. How are we going to answer and make rewards and encash that in terms of rewards in Jannah? So with those principles putting together, I think this is where the Malaysian Central Bank, Bank Negara Malaysia, has come up with the VBI framework, which basically integrates the Qawa'id Fiqhiyya, the Maqasid Shari'ah, as well as the sustainability agenda, and put all together so that the financial institutions can get into approach of tarbiyah, not only just making judgments and decisions, either I should finance or not, but also they bring the industry, the customers, the stakeholders, to a phase where they are ready to uphold the values together, the values driven by maqasid, the values driven by sustainability, unless it conflicts with Sharia. When it comes to innovation, today we are more, when it comes to innovation, straightforwardly we talk about fintech or technology, embedding technology with financial solutions. But my opinion is that technology is just an enabler. We did things before in a different manner, now it makes things easier. But just putting technology itself is not an innovation. Innovation, real innovation is when it solves a challenge, brings a solution. Today, people around the globe are, suffering with inflation, this and that, high prices of, products and this. Does the innovation, does the sustainability agenda drives that, helps people in that matter? I think that's the real sustainability from the lens of Islamic finance and Sharia. I think I tried to articulate the answer. I know I couldn't make it better, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Mufti Yusuf, and thank you for bringing that topic of faith and the principles of Islamic finance. Actually, that would help me direct the second question to you, which is about Islamic principles, but in the context of just a transition. So in the conventional space, there is a lot of interest and focus these days on a just transition, one that will not leave anyone behind and one that will ensure that the climate action and the sustainability agenda happens without adverse impact on socio-economic aspects of the different countries. So with that in mind, what would be your perspective or your take on the Sharia principles that would be able to guide just a transition?
Thank you so much for the question. I think if we want to summarize the whole Sharia in one word, I would choose the word adl. Adl denotes justice, fairness, equity. وَضُعِ الشَّيْءِ فِي مَحَلِّهِ, doing what is appropriate for whatever or whoever. Now the opposite of adl is zulm. وَضُعِ الشَّيْءِ فِي غَيْرِ مَحَلِّهِ, doing the inappropriate thing or the inappropriate action. So when we talk about transition to a sustainable development, we are talking about environment-friendly or climate-friendly solutions, like the Mashaykh has mentioned about the electric car and this and that. We also need to consider like who is paying the price here. Are we doing justice to the stakeholders of the global economy? So of course it's a good agenda, but then we have to also take into consideration the concepts of adl, the concepts of ihsan, the concepts of khilafah, stewardship that has been bestowed upon us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we take into consideration all those principles of Sharia and ensure that the transition is done in a just manner. So for example, in today post-COVID, we are seeing just the one that I was mentioning just before in the previous answer. We are seeing the whole world is suffering from inflation, high prices of products and this and that. So are we going to, finance solutions that bring down the prices of basic necessities like food, this and that, or we are going to, put the financing in that will be helping the environment, which will help the future generations. So this is where a proper due diligence needs to be made, and the responsibility is upon the leadership. As Prophet ﷺ profoundly said, "Ala kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun ra'iyati." Every one of you are responsible, and every one of you will be questioned on the day of judgment about his responsibility. So as we saw in the previous poll as well, the regulators, the board of directors, the executive management, Sharia scholars as well, everyone has to work together so that the solution that we reach, of course, we have that sustainability agenda in line with Maqasid Sharia and the Sharia values. We want to go there, but how and which path we want to take and how we want to take and when we want to take, those are the important considerations. We all have to make difficult decisions here. And I believe with that, we can reach a just transition process that will help that no one is fall behind. The society, when we're talking about environment, of course, we need to take care of the society, the employment, unemployment that will be caused because of this. So all those needs to be taken care of, and that's how, inshallah, we can proceed to the next version of Islamic finance. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mufti Yusuf. Indeed, adl is key, and indeed we are all ra'in wa kulluna mas'ulun an ra'iyatah. And one of the responsibilities that we have now, we have seen many private and public enterprises committing to is reducing carbon credits. So that will lead me to the poll. If I could have the poll on Slido, please, shown on the screen. So the poll question asks our audience, how familiar are you with the concept of carbon credits and its Sharia compliance assessment? If you could please respond to us while I move on to Dr. Ashraf. So Dr. Ashraf, of course, as I said, as part of their transition, public and private enterprises in Muslim majority countries are increasingly committing to reducing emissions by 2050. Now, carbon credits can help supplement efforts. Of course, the intention, the intending, and the maqsad is indeed to invest in business models that recalibrate and indeed reduce carbon emissions. But in case there is any residual, then these carbon credits, which are now emerging, provide a means of abating and contributing to the commitment. So could you please share Malaysia's experience in setting up Bursa Carbon Exchange in December 22, and then shed some light on the Sharia considerations, the challenges that you have faced, and how you had classified carbon credits as mal? And what's your view on tradability of carbon credits? Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dr. Ala, respected panelists, and my dear brothers and sisters. Before I proceed, I think I would like to make a disclaimer that I am one of those majority in terms of carbon credit that answer the question. It is not my field, but maybe I would like to share the journey that I went through as a chairman and member of Shariah Committee of Bursa Malaysia when Bursa wanted to establish the VCM, Voluntary Carbon Market Exchange, and they wanted it, and also the government of Malaysia, they wanted it to be a Sharia compliant carbon market exchange. So it was quite a long journey for us in the Sharia Committee of Bursa to understand it and finally to give our decision from Sharia perspective on it. So this is what I would like to share with you in these few minutes, inshallah. There are a few points that I would like to share. Number one, environmental issue is real. Yeah, maybe one of the indicators of the health situation of our environment is the reading of the CO2. Yeah, as of the day before yesterday, 30th October, the reading was at 418.55 ppm, parts per million. Yeah, to put you into context, the reading the same date last year was 416, so it is an increase of 2 ppm per year. And to put you into context also, in 1960, the reading was at only 300. Now we are at 418. And through the research, human will die in 1 hour if we are exposed to CO2 of 800 ppm. So some of my friends, they start to calculate when the Qiyamah will be. We are at 400 with 2% increase every year. When can we are going to achieve or we will be at 800? So it is quite scary. You can see that there are some, wal-iyazubillah, they commit suicide in their car by having a pipe from the exhaust. I think just not taking them long, to die. Wal-iyazubillah. So it is real. So if we are not doing anything, we will reach at that point. And before reaching at that point, we will be in trouble. Even today, the rain will come not in the rainy season. The snow is not at the level they were before. The sea level, so and so forth. The plants, they are not coming into the normal season that they used to be. So even before 800, we will be in chaos. So this is why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to the malaika, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. So it is not, our duty is not only among our fellow human beings, but it is specially mentioned, جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ. So it is our duty to preserve as much as we can, of course, our environment so that we can live it in comfort, and our children, child of our children can also live in a good environment. That is number one. Number two, carbon credit, not for greenwashing. I think it is not acceptable from Shariah point of view, even from conventional point of view, that you omit as much as possible of CO2. Since you have money, you buy the credit, then you set off. It is not. Yeah, so even from Shariah, of course, but even from conventional, what carbon credit intended to do is that, this carbon credit kind of arrangement intended to do is that you need to do whatever you can within your control and ability to protect it. If you have the light, you change it to LED, so and so. You do whatever you want, but of course, at the end of the day, there are something beyond your control. And then you set off by buying the carbon credit, because by buying the carbon credit, you also encourage the activity to absorb the carbon through some activities from other people. So this is number two. Number two, of course, there are a lot of technicalities. The journey, of course, started with the emission mitigation project, how you are going to identify. There are 3 steps to avoid, to remove, or to reduce, either by nature or by technology. Yeah? So it is not just you declare this 1 acre of land as carbon absorb kind of land, but you need to have your effort putting in. You grow a new tree, or you maintain the tree in a good shape, and that will qualify that project to be a emission mitigation project. Otherwise, it will not. Yeah, and then the project must be verified and by standard and credit issuance. In Malaysia, in Bursa, we use a VERA standard. Yeah, and then it comes to trading, carbon markets, and also how it is used. Once it is used, it will be the so-called retired, and it will not be in the exchange anymore. So I go direct to the Shariah perspective about it. It was a long discussion. I think this is our ijtihad. It might be correct, it might be wrong, but we were trying to put what this carbon credit from Shariah perspective. Yeah, there are some talk that it is a kind of ju'ala, because somebody is putting his effort, for example, to absorb carbon, and out of that effort, there are results that can be quantified through, certain methodology. Then, because of that, he will be rewarded on ju'alah basis. Then, after very, very long discussion, we at Bursa Malaysia, maybe we are wrong, Sheikh. Please, I think this is our ijtihad. We come to the point that we say it is not even ju'alah, it is mal by itself. Because when we apply the characteristic of mal, of course it is intangible mal. They are all there. Yeah. So it has value. It can be quantified and controlled, of course, through the methodology and through the legal. When it is the certificate issued, the certificate is legally recognized as an asset, even in conventional space. Yeah, so we have a long discussion with legal team on this, not only from Malaysia, but from other part of the world. And because of that, that certificate you can own, and then you can transfer. Then, of course, it is, from this arrangement, it can be utilized and recognized by Shariah. So we are not going, ju'alah perspective or ijara or wakalah, but we say that the certificate issued after due proper calculation, the methodology, and legally recognized by the, even by the law of the country, it is intangible asset by itself, recognized from Shariah perspective. And therefore, it can be traded in the exchange. Yeah, of course, if it is Sharia compliant exchange, all the other elements like the settlement must be through Islamic banks, so and so forth, that is taken care of, all other things. So I think, Dr. Ala, this is very small sharing of what we have been, learning from this angle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf, for sharing Malaysia's experience and your experience in considering the Sharia permissibility of carbon credits. If we can just put the poll results again, we could see that actually a minority have expressed that they're very familiar. The majority of us are not familiar, and therefore I trust your experience and the experience of Malaysia has been instrumental and will be instrumental, inshallah, in raising awareness and educating the rest of us in this space. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashraf. I would like now to turn to the audience, if we could please have the Q&A. So we have a few questions. Okay. So we have one of the questions is, what is Shariah's view on net zero in light of the Islamic legal maxim of la dharara wa la dhirar? So I'll open the floor to the panelists. Please, whoever would like to share his view on this, the Sharia perspective on net zero in view of la dharara wa la dhirar.
No, I think Mufti carbon. I think Sharia, I think whatever what is good, it is not against Sharia. You name it net zero, whatsoever. I think this is my maybe Mashay want to add.
I just want to caution of something. You know, now people are pushing for these electrical cars and these things. Now, whether it is genuine movement or it is a commercial movement hidden under certain agendas, because as you know, most of the oil producing countries are Muslim countries. And somebody once told me a long time ago that oil likes Muslims. So everywhere where there is oils, the oil comes out and is excavated in Muslim countries. Even in Russia, where there is oil, there is among the Muslim states. And even in China, where they found it was in Xinjiang, where there is the Muslims majority, and so on and so forth. So now the electric car is also, how is the electric car powered? By electricity. Okay, how is electricity generated? Either you have gas, or you have petroleum, or you have solar, which is still in a very development stage, or you have nuclear. So again, it will go back to the same concept of generating electricity by by oil or by gas. And also these electric cars, the batteries and other elements, you need to have lithium and cobalt, which are the most polluting in the areas where they are excavated. And there are horrific scenes that we have seen, how they are mined, these things, in many places. So also, why don't they take all these things into consideration? So it is not about zero emissions. I think there are some other agendas also in the field, so we shouldn't be fools. Sayyidina Umar said, لَسْتُ بِالْخِبِّ وَلَا الْخِبُّ يَخْدَعُنِي.
Shukran, Sheikh Nizam, inshallah, thank you for that fresh and new perspective. Inshallah, ma rah ninkhada'. But I don't know if I have is it possible to ask one more question? So one more question, because perhaps we haven't done due justice to the topic of zakat and awqaf. And since S of the ESG is not given due consideration, we would like to make a difference here by posing this question. How can waqf and zakat institution contribute in supporting the social dimension of Islamic finance? Mufti Yusuf, I see you nodding, so perhaps you would like to take this.
I just, doing that, understanding the question. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. I think Mashaykh can add, inshallah. I think as I was stressing upon that point, that when we are talking about sustainability, too much discussion on environment, but where goes the society? And this is where Islamic social finance, including waqaf, zakat, sadaqat, can play a very big role. So this should also be the part of discussion. So we talk about the people as well, and that the beauty of Islamic finance, we always feel a bit inferior that we don't have innovation. Zakat, waqaf are innovations from the beginning of Islam, that every single mal or wealth that we accumulate from and we hold for a certain time or period of time, we should contribute to the society from it. And not only that, there should be additional. Sadaqah jariyah, إذا مات الإنسان انقطع عنه عمله إلا من ثلاث. When someone dies, everything is stopped. All the reward sources are stopped, except 3. And one of these is sadaqah jariyah. So I think this is a very important point, and definitely we should always have this waqaf and zakat contribution and discussion. And mashallah, the UAE and other awqaf in the Middle East, and also other Muslim countries in Malaysia as well, mashallah, doing wonderful things when it comes to Islamic social finance. And that definitely contributes much bigger, or in a much more different manner, in a comprehensive manner to the sustainability agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mufti Yusuf, and thank you very much all for your time and your patience. It has been an honor to be in this session. Thank you very much.